Hi everybody, I'm Tim from troutandfeather.com, and as you can see, I'm not by my fireplace right now. We're at the Denver Fly Fishing Show. Special guest, this is Mr. Devin Olsen. Devin, welcome back.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome. You're returning into like a recurring guest or something, man. So we filmed a bunch of videos at the Denver Fly Fishing Show. If you look on the screen right now, you can probably see a little spot for that. And now we're getting to this one, and we're coming up with a title, something like, Help. I want to choose a Euro nymph rod. I don't know where to start. What should I do? It's simple. You ask Devin Olsen. That's what I'm about to do. Stay tuned. So I'm going to start off with just a general question, and he's going to kind of take it from there. So Devin, here's the question. I know a little bit about European nymphing. Let's pretend I've never done it before, but I go online, I see people recommend a 10-foot, 6-inch, 3-weight. So I say to myself, is this the standard rod? Should I start there? And if so, I go online, I see rods from $100, $300, $500, up to $1,000. Is it worth it to spend more money, or should I start somewhere lower in the spectrum?
Okay, so number one, a 10.5-foot 3-weight, it's a good place to start for most rods. 10-foot would also be fine, especially if you happen to fish smaller water most of the time. So if you're fishing a river that's floatable sized or pretty close to that, I'd probably go slightly longer. But, and this is going to come to part two, if you're wanting to stick in that lower bracket of rods price-wise, don't go to the 11 feet. Most of the rods that are less expensive, they don't recover very fast once you get past that 10 to 10.5 foot mark. And so they're not rods that I would want to fish myself anyway. So if you're looking in that lower bracket, stick to those slightly shorter rods because you need rapid recovery speed and rapid dampening of the rod tip to get a good Euro nymphing rod, both from a casting accuracy standpoint and setting up your drift. A
lot there. Let's unpack a few things. I heard Devin first start with the notion of fishing a rod even down to 10 foot. My first Euro rod was a 9-foot 3-weight. It was a St. Croix SC4, simply because it was my only 3-weight. It was 9 foot. I fished, we'll say, small to medium-sized rivers in central Pennsylvania. It worked well. I just felt like I needed more of a reach. And what I quickly realized, even if I jumped from a 9 to a 10-foot rod, it gave me more than a 1-foot reach. There's a great video that you have. Let's not dissect it now. Watch this video. It's down in the description.
It's actually a blog post.
Is it a blog?
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. We still do blogs.
It's on trigonometry. It's like a couple years old now. But it's basically looking at the Pythagorean theorem and how that relates to rod length and reach.
Yeah, wonderful. It's a wonderful blog. Man, I don't remember. It's like 2 years ago, apparently now. So
I think it's more than that. It's probably like 2017.
Was. Yeah, that's okay. So then the next thing I heard was the notion of rod recovery. And this is something I talk about a lot during my presentations. And what we mean by that, we've all been in a fly shop. We see people pick up a rod and they wiggle it. It wiggles. Some of the higher end rods, whenever you cast them, they stop wiggling faster than the lower end rods. And that makes a huge difference whenever you're European nymphing, when you're fishing in general, because imagine that we want to be able to make this cast stop, and we want our flies to dive into the water, and we want to have either contact or just like this, watch this sag as we go down. But we have to wait for our rod to stop. And if it's still bouncing, we're out of the game.
It's over.
Out of the game. So I love that you kind of introduced that. Let's keep going. What else do we have here?
So that leads into number two. What do you get when you buy a more expensive rod?
Now, I know you love to fly fish in the fall, but don't forget, like this video so I can make more videos like this. Now, let's get back to some more tips.
Let me just say first, if you're looking at specific rods, feel free to send me an email. We have a ton of them on the site. We have at least several dozen nymphing rods on the site now. Within those rods, there are rods that I still don't think are very good, and there's others that I think are really good, and they might not match up in price. So some rods that are lower priced are better than some that are higher priced. But normally, in general, what you get when you go from, say a $200 or $300 rod up to that $800 plus rod is you get increased recovery speed and a lighter blank, and they're correlated. The lighter the rod you can get, the faster it's going to recover, and then there's other things that they factor into how they choose components and the exact material, the blank and all that affect that. But you're getting more expensive materials that tend to recover faster as you get up in price.
I've kind of noticed that correlation as well. Sure, you might get a little bit more of a name brand rod. Maybe you'll have a better warranty somewhere along those lines.
Or it'll be American made versus
absolutely.
Made overseas, something like that.
But even in my own kind of experience over the last 4 or 5 years in European nymphing, it's obvious that the more expensive rods, as you can all guess, they perform better. At least they have for me. Also be cognizant it's tricky because we're not in an age right now where we have the ability to go to a fly shop and try out every one of these Euro rods. I mean, some rods we'll say like Moonshine, you can't find them in a fly shop. And it's tricky because I want to recommend to everybody, go and cast these rods. It's not always possible now. So try to be as specific as possible when you're asking questions at fly shops. If you're emailing Devin at tacticalflyfisher.com, if you reach out to me, I'll give recommendations. I have no problem doing it. I'm only going to recommend certain rods. I'll never bash another rod because I know too many friends that say, hey, I love this rod that to me, it didn't connect. I just didn't feel that it was a quality rod, but they love it. So if you have a chance, get your hands on a rod, but more importantly, try to ask some questions, tell price range, and tell people what you're looking for, and especially the water types you're fishing.
I would say if you can narrow down a little bit what you're looking for in a rod, if it's something specific, or if you're looking at two specific rods and one or the other, when you email me, something like that helps because I can narrow down my answer. Sometimes people just like, oh, I want a Euro rod. What do you recommend? And it's like, well, let me ask this series of questions now of you to drill down on what it is you're after. The more you can help me, the more I can help you when it comes to that. But, that's one of the things that I would suggest is if you don't have access to them locally, find an expert. I've tried to be an expert for folks on this subject. We offer a really wide variety of rods in the shop for a reason, but there's probably 20% of those that we sell the most of, and it's mainly because I think they're probably the highest performing rods at their price point. So okay. I can help match you up with those.
All right, let's shift gears. We'll make this one quick. 10 foot, or not 10 foot, 11 foot, 10 foot 6, doesn't matter, 2 weights. There was a period of time where I felt like everywhere I looked, I saw 2 weights. And I wanted to go in. I'm like, I want to dive into a 2-weight. What's that niche? What's the benefit of it? Do you recommend it for others?
I don't recommend you get that as your first rod. So your first rod should probably be a 3-weight. If you're fishing, really heavy water with big fish, it might even need to be a 4-weight. 2-weights, they load easily with small flies and more accurately, lightly weighted flies. So you can cast them with single 2-mil beads, things like that at short to medium ranges. So for really delicate finesse work in kind of technical waters that get fished a lot, 2-weights can be helpful.
Okay.
Or if you need to fish really small tippet all the time. So if you're fishing 6 and 7X tippet all the time, which I do a lot, 2-weights really help you cushion that, and you're less likely to have breakoffs. But 2-weights do tend to recover slower. Even if you have the best 2-weight out there, it's still going to recover slower than that 3-weight is. And so it takes a little more practice in casting and setting up your drift and some ability there to then be able to take that 2-weight and do the same things that you can with your 3-weight.
If you're into social media, be sure to use that hashtag Trout and Feather so I can see what you're posting about and I can learn basically where you're fishing, what you're fishing, the flies you're tying, all that fun stuff. Come on, where do you think I'm going to get my future video ideas from? All of you with that hashtag Trout and Feather. But be sure to add Trout and Feather on whatever social media platform you use. I'd love to connect with all of you there.
5 weights, 6 weights. How far up do you go with this?
The issue with higher weight rods or more powerful rods, however you want to refer to them, they just don't load as easily. And if you're Euro nymphing, and especially if it's a smaller, river where you don't need a lot of weight, you're not going to load the rod very easily. And so then you can't store any energy in the rod that then propels through the leader and directs your flies somewhere. So it's just hard to cast.
Okay.
You need enough flex that the rod actually loads a little bit under its own weight, typically for a good Euro nymphing rod, but then have that paradox of still being able to recover quickly. 5 and 6 weights, if you're chasing steelhead or you're fishing a really big river and you need a lot of weight, so you have some weight there that will actually load the rod, you can make it work. And I've fished a lot for steelhead over the years with 10 foot, 6, 7, and 8 weight rods even. But I'm typically fishing heavier water and heavier tippet, so since my sink rate's slower because of the tippet, I have heavier flies. But if you're going out for an everyday trout scenario, I wouldn't go any higher than 4, and I really only fish 4s if I know I'm fishing for big trout in big rivers. 3s that's kind of like your 9 foot 5 weight of Euro nymphing. That's probably where you should start.
Okay, you heard it right here. I think that's all the information we have for this one. Devin, thank you so much. I mean, just tons of information. If any of you have questions for Devin, best way to contact you?
TacticalFlyFisher.com. The email at the bottom of the website is info@TacticalFlyFisher.com. Keep it simple. You'll find me there.
I like it. I heard he even has current blogs. You don't have to go back to 2006 and read those old ones. Look at the new ones. They're great. I kid. Devin, thank you again.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. Let's not stop the learning yet. Devin and I have collaborated on a bunch of videos over the years, and you have access to all of them via this playlist right here. Click this playlist, enjoy the videos. There is tons of information, tons to learn in there. Devin is such an incredible fly fisher, fly tyer, and we all benefit because of it. Enjoy these videos.